Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we're going to break down a new sport that is taking over Philadelphia Phillies Spring Training. What is it, and why is it actually pretty important to the team? Also, Whit Merrifield has made an impact right off the bat for his new team. How are the Phillies going to use him, and what does his hot start to the spring mean for the outfield competition? And finally, we have 30 days till opening day, a calendar month. Who's the best Philly to ever wear number 30? It's another Hall of Famer as we do our countdown in today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. It really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. I appreciate it. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. So, I read a really interesting article today in The Athletic by Matt Gelb. Matt Gelb does a great job of covering the team, and he's been covering the Phillies for years. So he knows the ins and outs of this. But spring training is kind of one of those interesting times where you get all these weird, almost human interest type of stories. Sometimes they relate to the game. Sometimes they relate to a player or coach's path to the game at this level. And sometimes they're about a totally different game altogether. I want to tell you about the sport that's taking over Philadelphia Phillies spring training and why it's actually pretty important for the Phillies. And that sport is called Pacoball. Now, I've seen some people commenting this under Instagram posts from the Phillies main account or Twitter posts that are pictures of Phillies players holding like a pickleball paddle. I was like, are these people just not aware of what pickleball is? It's become popular enough. And I read this article today, and I get indoctrinated by Matt Gelb into the ways of Pacoball. So Pacoball is named for Paco Figueroa, the first base coach of the Philadelphia Phillies. And what it is some kind of like hybrid game where you have to use your non-dominant hand and a pickleball paddle to hit a racquetball. And it's got like 4 squares, kind of like the game 4 squares you played back when you were in elementary school at recess. And the Phillies love it. They play it to warm up every day before spring training starts. Actually, the outfielders do. The infielders are trying to get a little bit involved as well because they're jealous that such fun competition is going on. But you might say, oh, well, they've come up with their own funny little game. Why is this important? Why should we even care? What does this even have about baseball? Well, first of all, in the article by Matt Gelb in The Athletic, he talks about how the players feel that this is very helpful hand-eye wise to fielding a ball in the outfield, especially tough one-hops, balls on the ground, ones like that might skirt by you. This is a really good training exercise for that. Also, we know how monotonous baseball can get. As fans, there are times where we say, this game is boring. This season stretch is boring. Like, I don't really feel like watching the Phillies today. I don't really feel like going out there. Listen, the Phillies are not immune to that. There are days when they wake up and they don't want to go to work, just like you or your boss or anybody else in the world. So what do you have to do? You have to keep things light and entertaining and introduce competition any way you can get it. And Paco Figueroa did that with the invention of Pacoball. Him and Nick Castellanos combined minds to come up with it, and now everybody's playing. Apparently, Johan Rojas is the best at it, according to his teammates. Kyle Schwarber, not too shockingly, seems to be the worst at it. Can't move around at all very well, Kyle Schwarber, when he's playing Pacoball. But this is the kind of stuff that really separates teams from that show up to spring training and just go through the motions and work on baseball stuff versus the teams that find new, interesting ways to increase the team's focus, stretch out while you're doing it, work on hand-eye, build camaraderie, build competition. There's also a really interesting part of the article where players talk to Matt Gelb about how it teaches you about your teammates and why that's so important. It's an outfield-specific drill, or at least it was at its inception. Now there's infielders playing it because it's so fun of a game. But when Johan Rojas is playing center field and there's a ball in the gap, he needs to know, oh, Nick Castellanos is the type of guy that's going to lay out 100%, go get this ball, or Nick Castellanos is the type of guy who's going to pull off of that and give way to the center fielder. Obviously, we know from watching Castellanos the past couple of years, he's probably the latter, and he'll probably play more conservatively, but you need to know the tendencies of your teammates, and that game teaches you a lot about that. It also helps you, like I said, with the coordination, which could help with the outfield defense. It teaches communication, which is key to outfield play. Talking is something that is insanely important in the outfield. Like almost as important as being able to catch the baseball is talking to your teammates. And you'd be surprised how many dudes don't do it, or don't do it enough, or don't do it in the right way. This is a good game to help with communication. And honestly, you might still be saying, like, why is this important? They're playing this cute little game. Because you could just hear the way that the Philadelphia Phillies attack this game, the way that they attack competition, the way that they interact based on the quotes in this article from Matt Gelb, and how that makes them feel about being around their teammates. When we talked about running it back, people were worried that this roster wasn't good enough, that they had holes, that Dave Dombrowski wasn't fixing stuff. But what running it back does, and I've talked about this multiple times, is it builds upon already existing chemistry that the team might have. There's one thing that I feel entirely confident about with the Philadelphia Phillies this year, and it's that this team has outstanding chemistry. The players love each other. They do. And that is a huge, huge thing when you're going to spend 162 games of baseball playing alongside one another. And then the postseason after that. It's the longest, most grueling schedule of any major North American sport. And chemistry and camaraderie and a locker room that stays together is something that's key for the Philadelphia Phillies. And little things like this show you how focused they are on making that their calling card. They're going to be a good baseball team. They are. They're going to have athletes. And competition does more than just that. This type of competition helps you go through stretching and get loose for the day, avoid injury by making sure you're getting a nice dynamic warm-up in. That's a key to basically every workout. If you know anything about sports training, is dynamic workouts. This is legitimately a dynamic workout. And there was an excerpt in the article as well about guys going through normal stretching and looking over at the dudes playing Pacoball, like being distracted because it seems so much fun. Do you want to do the stretch that players are getting distracted from? Or do you want to do the dynamic warm-up that players are being distracted by? I'd rather have the one the players are enjoying doing. And this is just the beauty of an organization like the Philadelphia Phillies. They know how to keep it light while also staying focused on the actual goal of what they're there to do. They know how to come up with fun ways to do things differently. And that's kind of the key to spring training, right? You could show up and you could go through the motions and you could play a couple rounds of golf in between some games that don't matter. And then you could show up to the regular season and say, hey, all right, let's see what happens. Or you could come up with new ways that are baseball-centric, maybe different sport name, but baseball-centric, like Pacoball. And you can keep the players engaged while they're learning, while they're growing, while they're improving their game, while they're getting to know each other better. Keep in mind, this is not just like the major league guys. There are plenty of dudes in camp that will not be on this team that are now getting to know the players above them and learning from them and learning how competitive they are. It's just a really, really interesting story that I don't think I don't want to say like, oh, if you haven't been around baseball that much, because I know people who are Phillies fans follow the Phillies religiously. But being in the clubhouse or playing on a team at a high level for baseball, I was lucky enough to do it collegiately and semi-professionally. And I don't think people realize how bored baseball players get of the sport. Like, if you think it's boring, like, baseball players sometimes run into that issue too. Not everyone's a Bryce Harper who just loves the game, eats, breathes, sleeps the game of baseball, and never gets tired of it. So things like this are super important to making things happen quickly and correctly, especially in a time like spring training where it's so easy for guys to lose focus. So I love this story about Pacoball. Will Pacoball be the reason the Phillies win a World Series this year? Probably not. But could it be the reason that they get through spring training happier and healthier and a tighter team than even they were coming out of last season? It absolutely could be. And that's a valuable, valuable thing. And I thought it was a story worth highlighting, as did Matt Gelb. Go ahead and check out his article in The Athletic about this for a little bit of a deeper insight. Credit to him for educating me on the story through that article. And I just thought it was something fun to share with you. So that's what the Philadelphia Phillies have been up to down there in Clearwater, at least during the warm-ups. But then they've been playing a couple games. And Whit Merrifield has made an impact early for the Philadelphia Phillies. What exactly has Whit Merrifield done, and what does it mean for the outfield competition? Well, we'll talk about that coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you about my friends at eBay Motors, because passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy. And it's also what keeps your vehicle alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. They've got superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So you might be into speed, you might be into power, you might be into style. Well, eBay Motors has got you covered for all three of those, and however you want your ride to look or feel. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And plus, they've got eBay Guaranteed Fit, which means your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. You got all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's super easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So Whit Merrifield has had himself a really nice start to the spring. He's the guy I want to highlight through the first 3 games of the Philadelphia Phillies Spring Training. By the way, the Phillies lost yesterday to the Boston Red Sox. Unfortunately, they gave up the winning run in the bottom of the 9th inning. And now the Phillies are 2-1 in Grapefruit League action. Not that it matters all that much. But in yesterday's game, Whit Merrifield hit a home run down the left field line, his first home run of the spring. And he is having himself a darn good spring training to start. He's batting .333. He has that home run. He had 2 RBIs in the game. I mean, he's got some solid numbers down there in spring training. And I really like what you're seeing from him as far as his approach at the plate. He's not a player that try and does too much. He just kind of goes up there, puts bat on the ball, which is why he's led the American League in hits before. Doubles, triples. I mean, he has easy kind of gap-to-gap pop. He doesn't really strike me as like that home run hitter. He seems a lot more like a guy, think a right-handed version of Bryson Stott, right? Think a right-handed version of Bryson Stott as far as what you're looking for from Whit Merrifield. You're just looking at a guy that goes ahead and gets up to the plate, knows what the pitcher is doing, knows exactly how he wants to attack that, and then goes ahead and puts bat on ball more often than not. I don't think him batting .333 now is an indicator that he's going to bat like over 300 in the regular season, but I think it's showing you just how valuable Whit Merrifield is. Here's what's important to remember about Whit Merrifield, though, because the next part about this, I've told you what he's been doing. And as far as the spring training numbers, .333 through 2 games of action, both from the leadoff spot, that's pretty darn good. That's all you can look for. But what does it mean for the outfield competition, right? How does this affect his ability to potentially start? How many innings he's going to get? What does this mean for Whit Merrifield? I'll tell you the only guy that should be kind of worried about Whit Merrifield right now when it comes to playing time. And that's Edmundo Sosa. Because, Eddie, I love him. Love Edmundo Sosa. He's been valuable to the team these past couple of years. And Edmundo Sosa will still play. There are going to be days that he's got to get out there. I think he's probably a better infield defender than Whit Merrifield at this point. I'm not 100% sure one way or another on that, but just my feel is that Edmundo Sosa would be the better defensive replacement in the infield. But I haven't seen enough of Whit Merrifield play infield defense yet. We could see if that changes. Bottom line is, if Whit Merrifield starts in the outfield, then you can't potentially have an upgrade in the infield when players go down or need a day off. So that's why he's not going to start. But think about it this way, right? Opening day, Whit Merrifield is on the bench. Then day 2, game 2 of that Braves series, Merrifield might be on the bench again. Day 3, you might want to get somebody a rest. Someone might be banged up or something. You might have a tough lefty go on the mound, and then you're going to put Merrifield out there in left field. You say, okay, Merrifield starts in left field game 3. Then game 4, I don't know. Alec Bohm needs a day off. Alec Bohm a little nicked up in spring training right now, nothing to worry about. But like, let's say he has something lagging, and he just wants a day off, or he needs a day off according to Rob Thompson. Merrifield goes and plays 3rd. Merrifield plays 2nd the next day because Bryson Stott needs a day off against lefties. He could play everywhere all the time. Starting him would only restrict the Philadelphia Phillies from doing what they want to do with his versatility. It just doesn't make sense to start him because he's more valuable than a starting player almost, right? Defensively, his versatility is more valuable than starting him at one position. And it seems like again, let's talk about that Pacoball article. This will come back around to the outfield conversation, I promise. But just the commentary on Johan Rojas and how he's communicating with guys and how he's constantly talking and always focused and working really hard and really good at everything that's athletic related. He seems to be the guy in center field. And Marsh seems to be the guy in left field. And Castellanos seems to be the guy in right field. So I wouldn't expect this to change anything in the outfield. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to do another opening day roster prediction on Friday. We're going to continue to do those on Fridays as we draw closer to opening day. I'll give you a hint on the outfield right now. I would be shocked if the starting outfield on opening day, barring injury, is not Rojas in center, Marsh in left, Castellanos in right. So what does Whit Merrifield mean for the outfield competition? Well, it means that for sure there's only one spot available as far as an extra outfield position is concerned. And that's going to go to either Christian Pache or Jake Cave or, maybe Weston Wilson if they trust him as an outfielder. I know that's a guy who can play outfield and infield. Maybe it's Weston Wilson out there. Maybe it's David Dahl. I don't know what you're going to do out there with that final outfield spot, but it makes it hugely important for the Philadelphia Phillies to add somebody in there, I'd imagine. And someone brought up this point. God, I wish I remembered who it was because someone commented this either on the YouTube or tweeted this at me. So you know who you are. Credit to who said this to me. But Pache is a left-handed bat too, which is a big asset for the Philadelphia Phillies compared to Merrifield's right-handed bat. That would give him, it seems, the edge over what you're looking at. Or I'm sorry, is Pache? I'm forgetting everyone's handedness right now today. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble. No, Pache's right-handed, Cave left-handed, and Cave being left-handed might give them the advantage over Pache to make the team. That's right. They're backing up the point where I said I think the organization trusts Jake Cave more. It was like a week ago. I get so many stats and stuff jumbled up in my head, I can't even remember which hand these guys hit with. Anyway, Whit Merrifield has had a really, really good start to the spring season. He looks every bit of the all-star caliber player he was last year. The one other thing you got to remember is he's 35. So part of playing him every day would be believing that he can handle that workload at this age. We've already talked about JT Realmuto potentially starting to slow down where he's at his age. I don't think Whit Merrifield's in a place where he can play every day and be as productive as he could be if he played different positions like every other day, 3 times a week. It's kind of what the Philadelphia Phillies are going for. So you don't want to burn him out. You don't want to put the Phillies in a position where they're less versatile. That's why Whit Merrifield's not going to start. But he's had a really good start to his spring, and that should make you feel very good about the Philadelphia Phillies' ability to be more deep when it comes to the outfield and the infield as well for the upcoming season. Coming up next, we're going to discuss a little bit about our opening day countdown. Number 30, another Hall of Famer is on the list at 30 for the Philadelphia Phillies. So I'll tell you who that is, and we'll talk a little bit about why they're important to the Philadelphia Phillies, or at least baseball history, as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. All right, I want to tell you a little bit, my friends, over at FanDuel. Because right now you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. You can just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. They've got a lot of great bets, right? So you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, you'll get that new $5 bet to win $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. And with those extra bets, you can really use that on anything. Money line, spread, over-unders, all that great stuff. Futures bets. The NBA is really rolling right now as their post-All-Star break schedule heats up. This is the time to get in on it. So again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, opening day countdown. We're up to number 30 in the countdown, or should I say down to number 30 in the countdown, as we have 30 days till opening day, March 28th against the Atlanta Braves. There have been a lot of number 30s in Philadelphia Phillies history, a long list of guys to go through. Gregory Soto is wearing that number right now. David Robertson has worn it before. I mean, you're just looking at some of these other names. I mean, there haven't been a top-level 30s recently. Steve Jeltz wore it from 1984 to 1989. Might remember him if you were around that 80 team. Jim Morrison wore it back in 77 to 78. Not that Jim Morrison. When you're looking at it, there are a lot of guys that have solid careers, but none that have like amazing Hall of Fame careers, except for one. And that guy's Fergie Jenkins. Now, Fergie Jenkins only spent 1 year wearing the number 30 for the Philadelphia Phillies. It was in 1966. But he's a Hall of Famer. He was a Cy Young winner. He has an 84.2 career WAR, 284 wins as a right-handed pitcher, a 3.34 career ERA. He's one of the great names in baseball, Fergie Jenkins. He's got to be the pick for number 30 simply because he's a Hall of Famer. Like, I know the argument is, well, he only played one season for the Phillies wearing that jersey number, and I'm going to have to overrule you on that simply because Fergie Jenkins is one of the all-time great right-handed pitchers in the history of baseball. So I know it's short, but Fergie Jenkins is getting the nod as the best Philly to ever don the number 30 uniform. And that is our latest guy in the countdown. Tomorrow we'll have number 29 in the countdown as we get even closer to opening day against the Atlanta Braves. It is right around the corner, and we'll have plenty more on Locked On Phillies for you ahead of opening day. So a lot more to discuss on tomorrow's episode, but that's all for today's episode. So thank you so much for being with us. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to everyone who's already done that. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.